assessment. I haven't seen the new rate change, but I think it's 85, 8,500.
Yes, 8,500 on the current, just for perspective, just from what was being discussed, I did look the last 5 years. Total amounts paid in totality this 5 years was about 18,500, just for perspective in terms of discussing what actually paid.
So 18,000 over a period of 5 years.
Correct.
That was, last year we did the big increase, I think it was 7,000
Yeah.
and like 8,000, so 16,000 of that 8,000 is, well, are you counting this year's in that 18?
No, so this year is about 8,500, the last 5 years were 7,000, 4,700, and then just over 2,000 prior 3 years.
So the 8,500 is not included in the 18s?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Has there been any exchange of writing from them to you, or you to return? Are we just now hearing about it now?
The call happened this week,
Oh,
so
all right.
that's why, wrapping this up and even getting into this meeting was getting information. And maybe when I get back to the office by tomorrow, all the cities in Volusia County may have gotten back with me. Some have no stormwater fee period, so it doesn't matter in terms of but those who haven't are either collecting it on the tax roll or they're collecting it on a utility bill, which means everybody's getting their stormwater utility assessment as in addition to their water and their stormwater utility bill, so it's just a portion of the bill.
Well, the way I see it, and I don't quite like it, but I think at this point in time, we need to defer to our attorney and lean on his legal knowledge since tomorrow is the 13th. I don't think we have much choice.
Well, I agree with the attorney's assessment on this assessment. Nice fun. My concern is that when the ordinance was adopted, creating it and everything, the terms that they used created conflicts that we're running into now.
It was
So-
adopted back in 2000.
Yeah, and so I think that we need to have a workshop on it and review it and come up with a better way of doing the system. But I agree, let them off this year as long as they're agreeing not to request back payments.
The other thing is that the charter school, when it first came here, it was owned by another party, and they were renters, and then they became the owners. So the transition between tenant owner also took some, I guess, jostling. And then the city also, we floated a bond in order for them to be able to purchase it. I remember we did it. I don't remember what it was. And
They had it at like a 30,000 foot level. I believe to get the tax exempt financing, it had to sort of flow through the city. We didn't issue the bonds, we're not obligated on the bonds, but we're like a conduit for them to get the tax exempt financing. They didn't have to use Lake Helen, they could actually use any tax exempt entity in the state, maybe outside the state to do it. They came to Lake Helen to say, hey, we'd like to do it here since we're here, because we make some money off of that. I don't know how much it is, but I do know we were making some money off of that. And I do know that they agreed to pay a kind of a lump sum fee when we did it to help offset the loss of the fire assessment. I remember that discussion too. So there was a payment, I don't know how much it was.
I think it was about $60,000.
Couldn't tell you.
In that number, I was on that, and they gave it to us as a lump sum, actually, in assisting the upkeep of the park, because now their kids were using their park and they didn't have a playground, so they supplemented our parks about, I think it was $5,000 a year or something like that. But they were working with us as a partner, and they were transitioning in, and we, as a city, were also transitioning. They increased their first building that they had. And then when they were offered to buy the whole complex, they bought the whole complex. They had to come back to the city to ask for an additional, I think it was another 400 students. So now you're up to about 900, 800 kids?
950.
About 900? 950, plus they have about 100 staff. So it's about 1,000 residents, so not residents, they're not residents, but 1,000 people a day coming to our city, coming through that charter school. And I'll just say that we did have the challenges of transportation and traffic, and they've been working with us. They have worked with us in the past to try to alleviate that because it wasn't definitely an impact. So that is something that we give them. I give them credit for having made that effort.
And I think that the last thing to add, not to confuse it, but with Mr. Stinton's comment, if we have a workshop, we bring back, and if the end of the day is to adopt a utility system, it would have a component to do exactly what Mr. Stinton was talking about. Those with their own stormwater systems, showing that they're being maintained, engineered, or not needed, would be able to apply for a credit of their stormwater assessment, recognizing that they're taking care of and doing their process. We don't have that right now in our ordinance. That's what Deltona and some of the other cities have. So that would alleviate, I think, the Woods' concerns in the sense that they would have an avenue to be able to apply back to the city, at least for credit, recognizing that they're already taking care of their own infrastructure and their own ponds.
What was the reference to having to find out just how many government buildings are in?
Well, I think, I'm just thinking about if I was y'all, what would I want to know if I was going to make a decision? And what I would want to know, this isn't a question really just about, if you want to do a stormwater charge, we're just going to call it a charge, to Ivy Pond, you're going to have to do it to pollution councils. I think that's a given. But this is a way you can also charge all government property. So how much government property do we have in the city? I don't know the answer to that. I do know we have the firehouse, Bush County Firehouse. I know in talking to another city I represent, when I was asking how they do it, and this is the one I dealt with several years ago, many years ago, with the school district. They also charge HOAs, common area, because common areas aren't taxed. But common areas may have impervious surface they need to be. So I think if we say, like I said, if we just say, look, let's just not charge the schools or Ivy Pond, okay, simple. If you want to charge the schools or Ivy Pond, you ought to look at other non-taxable property and say, okay, who else could be taxed in this way? And then we better make sure we have a very solid, footing as a user fee. That brings in the credit part of it. If you're going to get a credit for on-site retention for a portion of it, that's one of the things I think that would help us argue or be able to solidify. This is a user fee. This is not an assessment. That is one of the things the courts look at. Thank you. So, step one is this year. Step two is how do y'all want to go effectively. You don't have to answer step two tonight, but that's the workshop possibly that Roger was thinking about. How do y'all want to go forward and deal with this prospectively?
Suggestions and motions?
Well, for tonight, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to exclude from the stormwater assessment for the 24-25 year.
On the
condition that they don't
they waive any rights to refunds for prior assessments.
what the attorney said.
Is that clear? Motion and second?
You good with that?
The amendment,
Braxton,
I'm sorry.
We got a motion on the floor. so-
He's amending the motion. Amending the motion.
Ivy Pond representative said they're good with that. Yeah, I talked to them before,
Okay.
and they said they probably would be able to kind of get it on the record. But what I want to do is put together a simple document for the city and Ivy Pond to sign saying this. And I'll get to it, I'll say tonight, but let me Or tomorrow, more likely.
Yeah, your simple documents are like,
What's that?
said we all know what your simple documents are like.
So we are clear here. Motion to second, do we have a vote?
Do we get a second?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Motion second.
Then we vote on.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All in favor? So moved.
Now the motion as amended.
And the amended part of the motion,
The motion for the resolution as amended.
okay, would you repeat that? Or that what he said?
The motion was for accepting resolution 24-01 as amended.
As amended. Okay. Second on it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, where are we now? I think we've gone through the going for fees, we're now to the public hearing, first reading resolution. Approve fees and fines.
Resolution number 2024-09, a resolution of City Commission of City of Lake Helen, Florida, approving a fee and fine schedule for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, providing an effective date. I believe this will be the first and only reading. It's just not first reading, it will not be coming back to you for second reading, so this is the first and only reading.
Thank you.
Just for clarification.
Motion to accept the resolution 2024-09.
Second.
Move second. All in favor?
Have a card to speak on that before you vote on that.
Hold the button.
Discussions?
Have a card up there.
Yes, Todd, I'm sorry. Todd Preston?
Thank you, Thank you for reminding us something.
Thank you. Todd Preston, 352 Connecticut Avenue, as always. Just want to point out a couple of things on your fee schedule before you approve this. In your agenda, it's on page 19. You have tree removal fees. Line number 2 says tree recompense value, $30 per DBH. So when I read that, that means that you're charging $30 per tree. Shouldn't that read per inch DBH? Because DBH stands for diameter at breast height. And the way your fees read right now, you're only charging by the tree. Line 3 says maintenance recompense, $10 per DBH. And I believe that should read per inch per DBH. Otherwise, you're only going to get a recompense fee for the tree, not per inch of diameter. So you have something missing there.
And that recompense for the diameter is that someone takes down a bigger tree, it will be a bigger fine.
Right, when somebody takes down, yes, when you pick up a bigger tree, you replace it, you're paying per inch of diameter at breast height. That's not the way your fee schedule reads. So I recommend that you change that before you approve it. Also, further down on the same page, you have facility rentals. Melissa Park, it reads $100, and Shuffleboard reads $100. Is this per day, week, month, or year? Because the way it reads, they can rent it and not vacate it. So I would recommend that you be more specific on that before you pass it.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
City Administrator, any comments on that?
The only comment I think Todd raises a good question, that maybe just we have a note or something on here that explains what that diameter is on there. But this fee schedule is the fee schedule that you have. So this is not these aren't new. The only new that has been added to the fee schedule is if there's any update to the animal ordinance based on the tethering law that we passed. And the only other thing that I know that's new it's added is the credit card convenience fee that will be assessed starting October 1 for anyone paying, whether it be their utility bill, their development application, or their permits in terms of their. So all of the other language on here has been part of the fee schedule for some time. And I think Todd pointed out just a couple of areas there. So a motion could be made, just having staff note, providing a little definition of what that diameter means, and we can have that done, I think, after the fact.
Okay, and for his comments about the rental of Melissa Park and Shuffleboard Building, I believe that's outlined within the document, once you read, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know, do we recommend that we update that or just leave it
No.
as is?
We'll take a look, but I think that's in the rental agreement. And if there's any conflict or whatever, then we can bring back the idea of the fee schedule being a standalone item. We can bring this to any meeting and do ups and changes and whatever in terms of there. So, but because it's part of the budget process, it would be ideal to at least get that passed tonight with definitely Todd's notes on there that we can adjust. And then we can look at the rental agreements that dictate that time that's on there. Because I don't think he's got a point in saying that they could be there forever, but I think we have a specific time when they're out and they would be charged extra if they weren't out for a given time.
Thank you.
Well, if you go like similar like what they have for Hopkins Hall, just add in the weekday rate.
Yeah,
That's all that has to be added to it.
good point. Yes, sir.
I can remember at one point, the Melissa Park was renting in the morning and or in the afternoon, so it wasn't always an all-day thing. So that's that.
So we can look at those few things, but the intent of your schedule is pretty much there. Like I said, the only changes were if there was a change in animal with the new tethering and the credit card fee.
Okay. Further discussion? Motions? Where are we at? Oh, we already done that.
I'll make a motion, second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? And so moved. Unanimous. We drop down to the consent agenda. If there's any discussion, we can do it all in one, or do you want to do it individually?
If they do it individually, there needs to be a motion to pull that item from the consent agenda.
Okay. So on the consent agenda, any item that would like to be dealt with separately? You make a motion.
Make a motion that we pull the frivolous meeting minutes.
Minutes?
And those.
So we make them. So we go all of them since all of them are separate.
So if the minutes have been pulled, then you could go forward with a motion to approve the other two items on consent, and we can come back to it.
I think she also pulled up.
She pulled it.
Oh, all three.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, she pulled two, and the third one is the one that's left.
But let me ask the question for future meetings, and again, this is not adversarial or whatever, but we're doing this every meeting, so do we just want to eliminate the consent agenda? Because it's not serving its purpose, so we're going to discuss each item, I'd rather than just put it on for discussion. And we don't have to go through the process of pulling it and not pulling it, because a single consent agenda that I've been here going through has never been passed without something being pulled, so it'd be easier than just to say, we've done away with the consent agenda, and we'll just put them on as regular items. Would that be easier?
Question?
Sounds logical to me.
It does sound logical, however, if there's an item on the consent agenda that may not be following state statute, would we stand
you could pull an item. If it's only, if one item on there, you could pull it and then pass the other consent agenda items. But if we're pulling 3 each time, and again, it's not adversarial, I would just say, then let's not put it on consent, let's just put them in there as individual items for the appropriate discussion.
Just for a refresher, what would be the normal reason for a consent agenda that all of the items that were listed would be handled as one? What was the idea of that?
Typically, doesn't happen. Once in a while, a question will come up, maybe, like Lynn said, there may be something in the minutes that a sentence or a word or something might be different, and that can be corrected from the dais. But if every item has always got an issue on it, then it defeats the whole purpose. Because the idea of the consent agenda really is that you make a motion, you accept the consent agenda, and there's not a whole lot of discussion or debate going on. It's kind of like clean.
Would it be a normal practice, or could it be a practice that there's an issue on any of the consent agenda that they would be noticed before the meeting? Would that be something that would be,
Every commissioner has the right to notify Roxanne and I, for example, if someone sees something in the minutes and says, I have an issue on that. You know, if it's a typo or something like that, we can have that fixed and repaired and brought in. But if it's a real concern about something that's written as a comment, and someone feels that's not what the comment was said or not was meant, then, you know, we can do that adjustment, but then that still has to be approved by the board.
okay, well, in this instance, where we are right now.
Yeah, we'll go with what we've got, and then we can talk about them.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about the, first the minutes and then the bills. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Discussion on the minutes. Seven A.
Commissioners' comments?
Thirty-two, or three.
Yeah, I did.
Thirty-three.
My only concern is the reason I can't pass them or pass the motion or make a motion is that when the zone commissioner spoke at the last meeting, every commissioner has been reported as stating something until we get down to zone 4. And then zone 4, it states that there was no comment, and that's not true. There were comments to that meeting. Page
I see it, no, page 33. Yeah,
I think it's-
33E.
yes, top of the last.
So that's the only thing that I've noticed, and I don't know why zone 4 was left out of the comments, because certainly we all had comments that night.
The point that Commissioner did not bring up is, each one of the, I'm just reading for the public who doesn't have it. Each one of the commissioners made a comment. I'll read what the comments were. Team, citizens, reactions, and strategies. That was Member. To Zone 1, Heather Rutledge, grant writing, women's NAACP luncheon donation. Vice Mayor Roger Eckert, relationships and perceptions. Commissioner Donata, team and professionalism. And for Commissioner
you should treat them all the same, I agree with that, but there's no specific level of detail required by Florida
No,
law.
I
for
know,
the-
because you can have just action minutes,
Exactly.
so.
Because the
okay.
the recording of the meeting is the official full version, but you're right, maybe we need to go back and look and come up with a summary of a
And I
little
think-
sentence or something that meets that one.
I just bring it up because our audio system isn't all that well. And people who wanted to hear that meeting, and the audio system wasn't working that well. So if we don't have the audio working, if we don't have a recording going on, then we've got to rely on paper.
Are you speaking about, the audio is posted? There-
No, it's posted, but
But
it's.
you're talking about I did speak to the newspaper who had, the reporter was there at the meeting, but they did not stay for the, commission reports by zone. And whomever they did speak to said that they had the, recording, but they weren't going to send it to the person because it was their private recordings, so they did not, get any information. The recording didn't have any information.
Yeah, no, I'm not speaking. I'm not speaking about someone's private recording, I'm speaking about what's coming out of City Hall.
Mayor, I think she's referring to our recording, the recording that's going on
Yeah.
right now. Any cameras or whatever in here are not our official recording.
Okay.
We're talking about the recording that we have of the meeting.
So you're saying that, there was no recording, you said that you couldn't hear?
No,
There's no comment
There was
listed from
where
the
she
commission.
didn't type in there that I made comments.
Okay,
She said no comment. So she's questioning the minutes.
I see. Yes, know what you're saying. I
Yeah,
understand.
that work to be complete.
Yeah, it would be completed there instead of,
I think the only way to properly deal with that is to let them go back and redo the minutes and bring it back to you next meeting. Because they can't address it right now. We can't
Exactly.
insert it.
Table it,
thank you.
and we can bring that to the next meeting.
Is that suffice?
Motion to table?
Motion?
Make a motion that we table it.
Okay, motion.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you very much. Second one, you want the bills?
There were a couple of items that, thank you, that I noticed in the approval report. A lot of painting seemed to be going on in town. My main concern, I think the variance report turned out great, I thought, but, there's some issues in here that I don't quite understand, that I've seen nothing on, actually. We've got paint for well houses, we've got, paint for bathrooms, we've got paint everywhere. And then we've hired, it looks like a painter for $1,000. Are these the bathrooms in the parks? What's being painted?
Rick?
The park bathrooms, yes.
The park bathrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How's that coming along?
They're done now.
They are?
Yep.
I can see this light. I saw something in here that had to do with the roof, like there was an engineer that had done some roof work over at City Hall.
Yep.
I'm going blind. Unbelievable. I highlighted the frog. I'd like to know how we're coming along with that.
actually, I can ask Con to come back to do an update, because we're meeting all of the deadlines and getting prepared, in reference to the 24, 25, in terms of that, so I can ask her to come back at the next meeting and update exactly where we're at in that process. We're in regular communication between emails from Frock and us in terms of that point, and I know that the deadline came up in reference for the 24, 25, and we have met that, and, you know, providing purchasing agreements and policies and things that we're going to do, but I can ask Con to come back to the
Yeah, we
October
just-
meeting and do an update.
We hadn't heard anything on it, and I see that on the same date, she got, 2 checks, different invoices, obviously. So I was just wondering about that.
Okay,
I don't have a lot of questions on the bills paid.
I'll ask her to come to the 10-11 meeting and give us an update on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe I'll see if there's an update. Okay.
I said we have to pay her for that. We have to pay Con to come to the meeting.
Yes, but to do an update.
Right.
There, but yeah, I'll get with Con, okay?
So then would it be better for you to do the update?
Well, I can get that from her, so we'll have a conversation based on
Okay.
at what level we think we want to do in terms of exactly where we're at. But I'll talk with her.
So we clear on the bills? And-
Yeah.
And you said that the variance report was okay?
The variance report was right.
Any questions or any comments? Okay, so can we make a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the bills paid and the variance report.
Second.
Motion moved in second, all in favor? Aye. All in favor, passed. Okay. Right along. Oh, we're down to 8, the little pantry contract review, 8A.
Did you approve the budget variance report?
Yes.
We did include that, that wasn't a problem. That's on you?
At the last meeting, the commission had asked for Scott to send an agreement for the resident to sign involving the pantry. The agreement was sent out. We were told we'd get back comments involving an agreement. We did not get any comments back involving the agreement in reference to verbiage changes or any clarifications. The email we did get back was that they were not going to sign an agreement with the city as presented for the food pantry. And in the meantime, we reached out to the insurance firm, and since the city has allowed it and is on city property, the city is at risk for someone who could get sick, someone who could put tainted material or items that are in there. So without an agreement, I believe the city is in no position but to ask for the pantry to be removed, because we need to be able to have that responsibility and that liability on the person that's maintaining. And if they're unable to sign an agreement, they don't want to sign an agreement, the procedure calls that we can give them 5 days notice to remove it. If they're unable to remove it in 5 days, we can work with them, or I can ask Public Works to remove it, keep it at Public Works, and then it can be picked up and go from there. But we are now on notice by the Florida League of Cities, our insurance company. We have exposure and we have liability. And there were comments made last week that people were putting items in there that were inappropriate, were spoiled, that were bad. There's packets of things in there that somebody could eject something into. Somebody could coat packages in fentanyl. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy people out there or whatever today. Our job is to minimize legal jeopardy and legal liability for the city. So without an agreement, as city administrator, I have no other recommendation that the council make a motion that the pantry be removed.
Do we have any more discussion?
I want to hear from Nancy.
Since we have two people. Mark Parrish?
Mark Lee Parish, 139 West Park Street, Mayor, Commissioners. I saw some of the back and forth on social media when this came up before the commission, that when the pantry was put in, things were not well defined and that sort of thing. And in the community, it did become a question of whether there is liability, and city administrator just clarified that there is. So my comment is that there should be a very compelling reason for it to be in that location when there are myriad other places that something that good could exist at. A not-for-profit, a private residence, and that sort of thing. So it's not a question about whether it's a good thing, it's a question of whether it's in the right place. So if commissioners, I would say, if we want it to succeed, if you want to see that good work done in the community, then City Hall is not the place for it to be, for the reasons that have come up. It shouldn't be tainted by controversy. It shouldn't be a liability to the community. In fact, even if there was a way to say that there is no liability, even the potential for a lawsuit that would have to be defended, where the city would have to spend money to defend a lawsuit, is, in my opinion, not worth it. So I urge you all to just vote to make a motion to remove the pantry, and second it, and vote unanimously to have it relocated.
Thank you. Nancy Weir?
The contract I received on August 12th was not the simple, congenial agreement that was discussed and agreed upon by all parties during the August 8th City Commission meeting. I spoke with Mr. Simpson prior to that meeting and was told by him at that time the agreement he was seeking was simple, not an issue I even needed to have my attorney review. However, after receiving the agreement from Mr. Gleason on August 12th, and the agreement not reflecting the discussion and agreements made by all parties on August 8th, and upon my inquiry of seemingly similar agreements and/or contracts to compare with, and the information derived from my inquiry, I did ask my attorney to review the agreement I was presented. I was advised not to sign the agreement for several reasons. To address some of those reasons, in reference to one, no Exhibit A was provided as referred to. Number two, the agreement outlines the separation of city, but in three, retains control. Number four, wants to make this agreement retroactive back to the pantry's inception over 3.5 years ago. To add to those points, and to again reference two, I am being asked to agree to assume liability for what has clearly become a target by certain individuals who have blatantly worked together to purposely cause detriment to this pantry and or to use it as a weapon against me personally, as has been documented and you all are aware. The pantry has served our neighbors in need in our community for over 3.5 years without issue until recent when certain individuals began their crusade against me, not the pantry. Again, these acts have been documented. The removal of the little pantry really isn't about the pantry. It originated as an act against me, just as those same individuals have sought to abolish crosses for Christ Lake Helen. So in short, if the pantry is removed, it will be as a result of these then the appearance is that you support that behavior. If the commission values what is good and positive, and that this little pantry has represented to and for our community, I believe an agreement such as what was discussed and agreed upon previous, either 3.5 years ago or even last month, can be had. The choice is the commission's. I am fully prepared to continue with its service as I have done the past 3.5 years, or remove it. Personally, I believe removing something that has brought so much positive to our community to appease hate is not the answer.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, please. I have some. Maybe my question needs to be directed to, Sweary. Did you provide this feedback to, our city attorney during this time? Or could you provide what changes you'd like to see? I haven't seen a draft of those comments, and I'm not clear on, what you're thinking is different from the last meeting into here. I think maybe I just need further clarification.
I did not, because it became such a back and forth. I didn't want to incur the city to incur the legal fees with Mr. Simpson. And I thought it was something better for full discussion rather than the back and forth. Clearly, we have people here who really are just
Could you
against
come to
it.
the microphone, please?
Really, we have people here who are just against it, and it's, how do you combat that? How do you combat something that has served our community, our neighbors in need? And like us or not, everybody like each other, we are all neighbors. And we have community people here that are truly in need, and it services them. It wasn't a liability per se until basically 3 months ago, when it became a crusade by a couple of citizens and commissioners. Prior to that, we didn't have any issues. It was service. I maintained it. The city had no responsibility per se for it. Nobody had to go out there and check it. There was not a problem with it.
I understand, your position. My thoughts are, we all, at least I can speak for myself, feel that serving our community in need is of value. But my concern lies in liability and putting together a contract. So if this contract is not agreeable, I would like to find what is agreeable so that we can move forward with what was discussed. And so, I'm disappointed that we don't have that
So
tonight.
previously, we had talked about with Mr. Simpson. He has been our attorney for many years. He was here 3.5 years ago. He did not feel from a legal position, which he's our lawyer, that there was a liability.
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yes, because I proposed a lease agreement which you refused to sign because of the insurance requirement that was on there. The city didn't require it. I advised the commission at the time they ought to have a lease agreement with insurance. I get it, it's expensive. The commission, some members on the commission said it was a civic duty, whatever. Y'all chose to go forward, not y'all, specific commission at the time chose to go forward contrary to what my advice was. Fine, we can do that, but don't say I never said it was a
Okay,
liability.
well, that's my misunderstanding, because I did not.
Let me just finish. You could easily, this was sent to you for review, Exhibit A was gonna be attached, that's not a reason for denying this, it was just gonna be a picture of the area, drawn out where it was, very simple. Paragraph 2 are all things I either heard you say or write that you will do. And you just said, you took care of everything, that's what I put in here, you'll take care of everything. You follow the law, you inspect it, you do everything. And yes, we do need to retain control over it from the standpoint of if you don't, there's something dangerous out there, we've got to be able to remove it. That's what I retain. Or, I've heard you say, you thought we had a verbal agreement ever since. So why couldn't we make a written agreement retroactive to the beginning to make sure this clearly says? If there's one thing in paragraph 2 that you haven't said, that you agreed to, I'd like to know what it is. Because these are all things that I think you said you'll inspect it, the food or your volunteers will inspect it, you take care of the grass, we had an issue about the grass mowing, the city mowed it, you'll maintain that, you'll maintain the facility, you make sure you comply with whatever the law is out there. Because remember, the city didn't go out, the commission did not say, You know, it'd be nice to have a food pantry box. So let's go out and ask the public to provide us one. And after asking me to go, well, what are all the legal requirements? That's not how this happened. You came in, you volunteered it. I don't know what the legal requirements are. You said you would take care of it, so this is all your responsibility. So I think this is a very simple agreement. Anytime an attorney puts together a one-page agreement, it's pretty simple, from an attorney's perspective.
It wasn't you.
So, but I think this addresses what we talked about. And we are going to attach I didn't go there to take a picture of it. You know, we need to take a picture and draw out. A will be attached. It was for you to say, here's the agreement we talked about. I don't see anything in here that, one, we didn't discuss, or you've mentioned in the past, or two, that I can tell the commission, yeah, it's okay to take out. We need to be able to if the next commission says, or this commission has to change their heart and say, look, we need to end this relationship, they need to be able to end this. So yes, we do retain the right to terminate this agreement with cause or without cause. And if somebody, we get notice that somebody got sick there, and probably the thing I'm most worried about would be medication. Somebody puts like cough syrup in there, and it's before you can go check it, and it's expired, and then somebody grabs it, somebody could, get sick from that. Because I don't think anybody's gonna eat spoiled food. I mean, that's not gonna happen.
There's some things I can't.
So, and there is, but, and I told you ought to create an entity to protect you liability-wise. If you want to do it individually, that's fine, but I just don't see anything in this agreement.
Well, I think part of that, what you just mentioned, created an entity. I am not interested in becoming an LLC for the sole entry,
That's fine.
or to become a nonprofit for this. And it gets into some of this stuff. And that's where a lot of the problems lie is, I can, for what? I'm trying to help people. I go out and spend hundreds of dollars on that in addition to whatever I spend. I mean, what is,
But I think this agreement puts on writing, on paper, everything that you have represented, you're gonna do. I don't think I added anything here.
Can we bring it back as written on this side to discuss it?
Well,
I understand that.
it's gonna be indirectly good.
That's kind of what that's what we're
So
not,
that's,
that's not where we're at right
yeah.
now.
So, I heard the three things she said.
I'd like to have something to say about it as well. The fact that there are you just made a number of accusations about individuals who are nameless, about situations that we all supposedly know about, I do not know about. So I think at the point where we are discussing this for the purposes of, the minimum that we're looking at this is so that the city does not put itself in legal jeopardy. All that other stuff that's being floated out there, I think the bottom line is that our responsibility is to maintain a situation that does not put the city in jeopardy. And you've described through your writings that there have been attempts to sabotage that particular location. So now it's become a center of attention, it's become a target. So once a target has been put on somebody's back, or somebody's been targeting an entity, that entity is now a problem. The solution isn't just to keep it there and just see how far the problem can grow. It would be best to, if there's a problem, find a solution. And the solution that we have right now is that this is an entity that the city is not wanting to be liable for. You're bringing this to the city with all good intentions, but you're also not assuming liability. So for the purposes of where we are right now, this has gotten a lot of paper. It's taken a lot of time. It has put a lot of energy into our city resources. And the other thing I just want to remind you and for the commissioners, that the city attorney works for the city commission, and the city attorney should, and as far as I'm concerned, Scott, in terms of your interactions with citizens besides the city commission, is that a normal practice? In other words, if the citizen calls you up for
No, I typically do not respond to citizens. I will let Jim know and let Jim contact.
But have the correspondence with the citizen, is that Bill?
I think
I don't have correspondence unless directed by the city, and at that time it was Bill. Like, in this particular case, I don't think I corresponded with Nancy on this.
Just spoken to me, that was it.
Yeah, we had a discussion at the meeting, I drafted the agreement, sent it to Jim.
Well, I've never had a conversation with you, we've never talked about anything, you never sent me, I did get some of your emails that,
You would have gotten all the emails and everything else.
I'm speaking about parking, phone payment, Burton. I really think that you should do one thing or another. We've never had that conversation.
Well,
And I have always been open to anybody that wants to call me. If you look at my phone, log, very few people don't get phone back. And I'm one that, I don't know I don't know what you know, but I do know what you say in public that concerns me, that if you're saying that there are people that are out to get you, if you said there are people that are looking to harm the city by way of getting after you, then that also puts me in someone's concern for your sake as well, because you did mention that your safety is involved as well, and I wouldn't want you to be put in a position that would make your uncomfortable or unsafe. So where we are right now, thank you. Where we are right now, I'd just like to give you a rest. Yes, sir.
Well, this is a liability for the city if there is no contract for it being there. And right now, we're running into a problem with what she believes to be improper wording in the contract, and they want to work on it different, work up some different language or something, I'm not sure. I've had long discussions and sent her emails about it, and like the attorney said, everything that's in there, except for the one part about putting a label that exempts the city from liability statement on there, that's the only difference than what she's been doing so far. And state law protects food pantries from liability as long as the person takes care of it, acts responsibly, and does not purposely put things in there to harm other people. So she's been following the state law. It's the people that's been coming by trying to make it look bad that are disobeying the state law. But we don't have a camera out there to catch the people doing it. So, I would suggest, and I'm willing to make a motion on it, that the pantry be left empty until the contract can be reviewed by the parties and either turned down and then the pantry removed completely, or the contracts get signed and then it can be restocked.
Vice Mayor,
Yes, sir?
if I could, I just want to reference and read a line to you that came from the insurance company, so you can see that the agreement Scott drafted is much more watered down than what the insurance company is asking. They're saying in this case, they recommend a hold harmless agreement in favor of the city and proof of insurance on the individual and the organization providing the food pantry. In addition, these would not be there would not be coverage for the individual or the organization sponsoring the pantry. So their request is even more restrictive than what we initially proposed through Scott involving the insurance aspect. So the insurance company has already kind of put us on notice that they're expecting things to be seen in there to minimize the city's liability.
That I know of, the state law does not require insurance. I mean, the insurance company may want them to have insurance, but the state law does not require that the food pantries have insurance as long as they abide by the state law.
And that's why I was pointing out, we didn't require
It's like
that
a
in
Good
the agreement
Samaritan
that
law.
Scott, yeah, and Scott did not require that in his agreement, so we were a watered down agreement.
And just so everybody knows, if there's any question, why did Jim contact our insurance? I asked him to, because I mainly wanted to make sure that, as I mentioned it before to Lee, I want to make sure that if a claim is made, that the city's insurance would cover the And they said, yes, we have insurance, so if there is a claim made, we have coverage that covers the city. It won't cover Nancy, obviously, because she's not an insured. And then, obviously, they, as you indicated, Roger, they said, well, you really should go get all these other things too, to protect the city. That wasn't my first agreement like 3 years ago. It was a multi-page agreement, had insurance, whole harmless, all this other stuff. Commission didn't want it. That's fine. When we were here last time, I said, there's a simple agreement, no insurance requirements, y'all were fine with that. I believe the motion said that there would have to be a disclaimer on there, and that's why I added it. Y'all discussed that last meeting, so that was added during the discussion, even though I don't think that's part of what she was doing currently. But, so I added that because that was part of the commission's discussion when we talked about it last time. Jim didn't go contact the insurance company. I asked him to do it. He didn't initiate that. I said, I just want to make sure the city has insurance in the event there's a claim. Because this is not going to prevent the city from getting sued. That's not the purpose of this agreement. We're going to get sued. I mean, just count on it. But it's here's a document that protects us, to try to outline who's responsible for what, to try to protect the city when we get sued. We can't stop somebody from suing us. And the bottom line is, if somebody thinks they have a claim because of what happened in the pantry, because they were poisoned or got sick or whatever, food poisoning, they're going to look to the deep pocket. That's us, the city. That's who they're going to look to first. So we can't stop it, can't prevent it. That's just the way of life. We just need to try to protect the city so we have a defense to that claim if, God forbid, that ever happens.
That's where the whole harmless agreement thing on the contract. Having that posted there.
It's
Kind
actually
of removes the city as a disclaimer that removes us from
the whole
being
harmless.
liable for anything that she does there, as long as she abides by the state laws.
The disclaimer on there is to put the public on notice to say, this is not the city's food pantry. So when you're there, you know it's not the city's. The hold harmless would be an agreement between the city and Nancy that if a claim's made, she will be responsible for any damages and all costs incurred by the city. That's what the hold harmless does. Well, if she has breached any one of these things that she's supposed to do, we have a claim back. We have a contractual obligation. If she signs this, we have a contractual obligation with Nancy to do these things. If she doesn't do those things, we have a breach of contract action back against her. So the whole harmless sounds good, but when you're in contract with a person, it doesn't really add a whole lot to the equation, because she already has a contractual obligation to do these things.
Yeah,
Now,
I know.
the insurance would be helpful because our insurance company wants it because I think they asked that be the primary insurance, which means if a claim's made, the claim would go to the insurance that Nancy had to buy first before it hit the city's insurance. But we're not requiring insurance.
Mayor, may I have the balance of my time?
I
And
would
I
like
know,
to,
and I know that anybody can sue anybody for anything, because there was a case where a burglar broke into a house, and upon exiting the house with the items he stole, he fell and broke his leg and sued the homeowner and won in a court.
Really?
Yes. So,
actually got stuck in the garage too, I think, for a couple of days. I would like to.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm finding some confusion in what we're looking at on liability, based on, I guess, which party we're talking about. If I remember correctly, I don't think it was the last meeting, maybe it was. We had a young gentleman come up who was going to be taking the tennis courts for pickleballs. And then I guess a contract was presented to him that he would have to purchase liability insurance. And so therefore he said, no, forget that, no one go there. And so then the city turned around and said, well, that's okay. You go ahead and do the pickleball courts and we'll remove you having to pay for liability insurance. But he still refused it. He was still concerned about the liability being put on him. So where do we draw the line with people who are coming into the city, putting up their time, their money, the good for the people, going filling the pantry so those who may be hungry, because I know the mayor himself, last meeting, voted that the homeless could sleep in city parks because his heart's, his heart's.
No, I didn't say that they could sleep there, I just was not in favor of that bill. Just like you say no to a bill,
Right.
doesn't mean that you support it.
Okay.
I just said, no, I'm not voting against it.
And I apologize, I misunderstood.
I think addressing your question, Commissioner, there's a difference between tape on a court or painting lines on a court for pickleball versus consumable items that are put into a box that can be tampered with. So there is a distinctive difference between a food court and tape on a line creating pickleball.
Well, certainly there is. Someone could be out there on that pickleball court that was a tennis court that we now turned into a pickleball court, get hurt. Who are they gonna sue?
Well, that individual was asked, just like the people wanting to put up the batting cages for $1 million insurance. We didn't ask Ms. Nancy to get $1 million worth of insurance. So she wasn't held at the same level.
There's also different things you're talking about in insurance. If somebody, if a volunteer comes here and you're to provide services, we may, we have them sign releases and all this other stuff, we may not require insurance. If they're coming here to do work, then, for instance, when we talked about, Rick Basso was talking about putting up a pavilion. And I said during the meeting, he's gonna have to go through all the process of a contracted insurance, because we need to make sure when people come in and do work on our facilities, like what Rick Basso was proposing, that they have the same insurance and we have the same protection for, that their employees getting hurt, liability of their workers, damage to adjoining property. We gotta make sure we're protected. Just because someone's doing it for free, we have to make sure we're protected. And they still have to follow all the codes. I'm not familiar with the pickleball situation, but painting and putting tape down, the likelihood of them hurting, damaging our property, adjoining property, not as great as what Rick Basso is proposing to do with the construction equipment and everything going out there. But if somebody comes up and works on our pickleball court, we need to make sure that, if somebody's voluntarily doing something, maybe we'll waive a permit fee, but they gotta make sure that whatever they do, it has to be in compliance with the code. That's where we'll have an issue. In your example, somebody comes out to use the pickleball court later and gets hurt. If we allow someone to voluntarily come in here and do work on our pickleball court that creates a dangerous situation, then we're gonna be liable. So we got, the most important thing there is to make sure that the work that's being performed is safe and consistent with whatever the rules and regulations are for that type of work. Different scenario, as Jim pointed out, when you're talking about in Nancy's situation, that's a continuing issue where somebody could take something out at any day, before Nancy's able to go and look at it and inspect everything, somebody can make a claim. So that's an ongoing liability issue.
So the other stuff was the commission voted for that individual to work with Ricky, correct, Rick?
That's right.
So they would have been working with staff to ensure that pickleball court met all codes and restrictions.
Well, can I ask them how far do we go? I've looked at our volunteer forms, and I've talked to other cities and other commissioners and city managers regarding volunteers. We're losing our volunteers, obviously, but how far do we go with volunteers? Do we do background checks on any volunteers that come in and do anything for the city? Because if we don't, we're definitely placing our city at risk. So at some point, we've got to either go high or we're gonna go low.
I think we're a little bit off in the weeds here. I think what we really need to maybe get back to is the contract and maybe save this for a workshop if you're agreeable to that. We did discuss a little more in depth because it seems like it's maybe a little bit more in depth than we had originally thought.
Also, if I may bring up, when the year after the food pantry was installed, it was submitted beat out by Gainesville, who did a fruit tree thing on cities right of ways, installing fruit trees for anybody in the public who could get them for nothing. Just pick the fruit off the trees. Now, Gainesville was willing to accept the liability of somebody taking fruit off of a tree and eating it without knowing if anything's been done to it to tamper with it. So the food pantry would be similar, except the contract would be a thing with, that's covered by state law that would protect the operator of it from harm, similar to a Good Samaritan law. You can still get sued, but the judge will look at it as long as it's following state law. The suit will usually get dropped, unless the attorney is so well spoken that they're able to say, well, that calls the person inability to continue with his work. Like in the burglary case, the burglar was unable to continue making his livelihood because he broke his leg exiting the building, and the homeowner was found liable for his inability to work. So there's always a chance that you're going to get sued no matter what. But I think that I agree it needs to be better addressed, and I would recommend that until then, that no food be put in there for public to use until such time as we get this reviewed, so that we remove, during that time, the chance of liability of us being sued for improper food being in there.
I'm probably the only person here who has ran a food pantry that fed 1,000 people a month, 300 families a month, and it was called the New Hope Food Pantry. The interesting thing about that food pantry is at the same time that the city came before the county for the ECHO grant, it was the same grant that I wrote for food pantry, track team, and a Friday night special. So I had some experience with food pantries. Now, the question that I guess I'm sort of stuck with is there a definition, Scott, of I'm looking at one here. It says a food pantry is an independent community site that distributes food and other products directly to those facing hunger. Food pantries are supplied with food by partnering with local food banks. When I was running my food pantry, we were partnering with Second Harvest, which we were purchasing the food with funds that was donated to be able to buy the food. So I'm just wondering is there a distinction between a box sitting in the front of the city, putting a label on it as pantry? Is there any clarification that since we're getting into the weeds, is that a definition?
I guess, I go back to what I said earlier. This isn't something the city came up with. It wasn't like your commission at the time said, this would be a good idea, Scott, go research all there is to know about doing one of these things. I don't know anything about all this stuff.
Okay.
She came here and she volunteered, she says, I'll take care of everything. I haven't looked into it. I just know as an attorney that if I was representing somebody who took Motrin that's expired out of a box on city property, and my client got sick or died, I'm suing the city. I can assure you I would sue the city. Maybe Nancy too, but I'm coming after the city because you're the deep pocket. So I'm just trying to protect you. Maybe that immunity would work to us. Maybe it wouldn't work. Sometimes immunity just goes to the people. It doesn't go to the property owner. It just goes to the operator. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm trying not to spend more time than has already been spent on something that should not have required this much time.
Yeah.
I mean, it really should not require this level of discussion, to be honest with you.
That I know of, the state law does not distinguish between a standalone food pantry and one that's operated one that's operated like Second Harvest, they don't distinguish between them.
That's a good idea. You just mentioned, outside the gates. I just speak to the pastor today. The new pastor, his name is Sue Holland, and, they're also talking about, she's a new pastor, she's been there since the 18th. So, they're talking about, bringing back the behind the gates or whatever it's called.
Outside the gate.
Outside the gates, sorry about that. I have two cards here. I have, Kurt, which Kurt?
Smith.
Oh, Smith, this is Kurt. Yeah, come in.
Can I just add one thing? I just want to say.
He's got the floor.
All I have to say is right now, you guys are in a pretty tough situation making this decision. You're gonna be damned if you do and damned if you don't. And that's the way it is. Nancy, I've actually, we put food in there ourselves, because it is something that's needed for the community. I have a suggestion. Table this. Don't vote on it tonight, just table it. And see, and then maybe Nancy can reach out to a nonprofit organization that can partner with her as far as the liability part goes on it, to help protect her as well. Ivy Hahn's a nonprofit organization. They claim they want to be a big part of this community. That could be an option, that they could partner with her as far as on the liability part. That is one of my suggestions. The other thing is this, and Scott, I guess this is going to be a question for you. Is this any different from when cottage food was removed from the park because of the liability issue that could happen if somebody ate something from there? Because remember, cottage foods got removed.
I don't think cottage food was removed, it was.
But now you're required to put an ingredient label, and technically you don't have to. You don't have to with cottage foods, because cottage food you can sell out of your house.
As long as it has the label of the owner of the kitchen that it came from, so that if somebody wants to take a look at their kitchen.
Well, then somebody needs to inform who runs it, says that it has to have an ingredient
She
label.
does, she does.
Okay, because we were told you have to have an ingredient label.
Wait,
Wait, what'd she say?
Kurt.
No, see, she said you have to have an ingredient label, so there's no difference. Hold on, my time.
Now, see.
Okay. So is it any different if
The
there's
question I
no?
have is, what is the cottage food?
It's basically like, if I make a cake, I have to put all the ingredients on it, okay? Legally, I can sell that cake out of my house and not put an ingredient label on it. It's considered cottage food.
So what
All
do
you have to say is, it's a chocolate cake. That's it.
Okay.
So is it, as a cottage food, you do. So my question is this any different than that as far as the liability issue goes? So that's in lies, you guys are in a tough position.
Thank you for that.
I hate to be right now. I mean, I know which way I would vote, but,
All right.
so, all right, thank you.
Thank you. I have an Alan Cook sign here.
And the one thing I would tell you, I just kind of Googled this Good Samaritan. This is what I've just read, the Good Samaritan law only protects people who give food in good faith, apparently wholesome food, or good grocery products to a nonprofit organization for ultimate distribution to needy people. So if you go buy groceries and you take it to a food pantry, you're not liable. It protects you for giving it to the not-for-profit who's going to distribute it. It says it does not cover direct donations to needy individuals and families.
That's the third part.
And so it's the person who brings it in.
The law that covers food pantries is similar to the Good Samaritan law, and it's wording that it protects the people operating the food pantry from the same type of liability.
Okay, there's a food pantry law. This is Good Samaritan.
There's a food pantry.
Mr. Cook?
Alan Cook, 792 Oak Tree Lane.
It's you up.
You know, it's a damn shame. Let me tell you something, real shame. This lady is trying to help things and help things. And it's,
This way go these cookies.
sorry about that, boss man. But anyhow, what annoys me out of it and all, and I have no problem with the food pantry, I think it's a wonderful thing, she's done a hell of a thing for 3 years. Now, the big question is, and I have to ask Nancy Weary this question, okay? She came up here and said that food pantry is food pantry, but she has people that are against her and against the food pantry. Am I right or wrong, Nancy? Okay, now, my question to you, Nancy, is, do you think that this can be solved with these people? Or, the thing is, I go along with Roger in this way right now, if there's a question on it right now, if you get this thing taken care of, then let's just, if it's all right with you, let's close it down for right now. Don't put anything in.
You'll have to ask Mr.
Cookie,
Wilson.
Cookie, you have to address that.
So you're still there?
I
The debate is not with the audience,
Yeah.
communicating.
And we have somebody behind you, so as soon as you.
All right, but you see my thing is right now, if there's a big problem, it's a shame that this is happening, but I will go along with Roger in that way that if, right this minute, if we could turn around and empty it, keep it locked and stuff until this is settled, or what we can do with it, okay? And then, like I say, maybe she could sign the contract or change the contract. Scott, I appreciate all you've done on this thing to try to make it work. All I'm just trying to say is for right now.
Thank you, Cookie.
All right.
Ms. Betty?
I just wanted to say, we already have coffee, and we already.
Pull it down to you.
Pull it down.
There you go.
We already have a food pantry in the city, and we handle 50 to 60 families. And I don't know why you have to have one on the street corner.
Thank
How-
you.
What hours are you open?
Yeah.
The food pantry was open several days of the week, right?
It's open this Monday.
Mondays.
Mondays.
And the other food pantry takes
Twice a
care
month,
of.
and it's open on Mondays from 8 to 10:30 and 5 to 7 at night.
Ma'am, for that
And the food pantry takes care, the one that's outside takes care of all the other times that you're not open. It takes care of all the other times that you're not open.
With one can, I don't think that's going to be very handy.
Yes.
Mayor, I know we're talking about it's complicated. It's not complicated. I'm not sure what we're having a workshop over. It is very, very simple. If the person running the food pantry will sign an agreement that says, I hold the city harmless, I'm responsible for the food pantry, end of discussion. The food pantry's there, they run it, and they take care of it. I'm not sure what a workshop or whatever is gonna cover unless the commission is going to say they want it to be a town food pantry, and we're gonna run it, and I don't want that responsibility.
I think I said workshop, it was about volunteers, not about the pantry.
Okay,
I
that's
agree
fine.
with you, this
Yeah.
should be very cut and dry.
Yeah, it's
So-
simple. It's either agreement or no agreement. No agreement, then it needs to go.
So we have a motion, are we ready to bring it back to that, or was there more discussion?
Just a balance, I took the 1 minute before.
Was there a motion and a second?
It
No,
was
sir.
just a motion.
What was the motion? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't really make the motion, I says I would make a motion now.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah, okay.
But I will make that motion now.
And Mr. Parrish, if you wanted to do the last one.
Just a balance of my.
Yeah, you had about 2 minutes. You had a minute, actually.
Yeah, I took 1 minute. Thank you, Mark Parrish, 139 West Park Street. So the broader point is, I don't think it's about liability. It's about exposing the city to unnecessary litigation that would have to be defended. It would cost money to defend it. So there must be a compelling and good overall reason that it must be at that spot versus at a not-for-profit, at a church, or at a private residence. So that's, I don't know why we're kicking the can down the road again, when someone should just make a motion to just have it relocated, have staff take it out intact and the owner pick it up.
Thank you.
May I speak?
Nancy?
Oh, yes.
We have a disclaimer, we've had a disclaimer since day one that releases everyone from any liability. That's what we were told we were required to do, and that's what we did. It's been there for several reasons. When it was first voted there was the location and the cameras. And I don't have access to any of that. That is staff and police, and I leave that on them. So that's why that location was chosen. It's a great location. The way it's set up, you can't tell if people are coming in and sharing food or receiving food. So it gives a non-anonymous aspect for privacy. So I'll leave the rest up to you.
Commission.
I'll state my motion then. I make a motion that the food pantry remain empty until a contract is approved.
Second.
You second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion to leave the food pantry empty until such time.
Contracts approved.
Is that an open time period or is it just your motion
Well, before our next meeting,
before the next meeting?
2 weeks, our next meeting's in 2 weeks.
Okay, so we're gonna kick the can down the road another 2 weeks.
Can I clarify then?
Yes.
So if we don't have a contract in 2 weeks, do we remove pantry?
That's what would happen, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And that's an agreed contract, not a one-sided contract.
Right.
Okay. Motion has been made. Second. Zone 1,
Yes.
Zone 2,
Yes.
Zone 4,
Why you skipping her?
Okay, yes.
Zone 3,
No.
okay? And I'll say no as well. I'll be on your side. You know what I'm saying? So motion is then to have a contract in 2 weeks or the pantry goes. And the vote is 3-2.
Was that the
And we should end that right about now and just move on to the next thing. Is that okay?
Would you repeat the motion?
The motion was that it would be,
Add stuff.
the motion, I'll repeat it. The motion is that the food pantry will remain locked until empty. Okay, not locked, empty. But you'd have to make some
Yeah,
signs so people don't put a
No,
sign.
it'll have to be
So
locked.
the food pantry will remain empty until such time or before a contract, an agreeable contract, a two-party agreement contract has been signed with the terms and conditions, of course, that both sides would agree to.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That does not happen within 2 weeks, then the food pantry will be removed. Is there any stipulation as to how the food pantry should be removed by the city or the individual that put the food pantry there?
The same way the administrator was handling it before and allow.
And we would give the owner five days to remove it. If not, we could remove it and then they can pick it up at Public Works.
Okay, all right, so it's been so moved. Motion has been moved and 3-2. And I think that ends that discussion at that point.
Who was the other no? I'm sorry.
It was me.
Okay, thank you.
I said no. I had to vote with my sister over here.
And I just have one that's coming. I hope that we can memorialize what's been happening for the last several years. That was the goal all along, was to memorialize what was already happening. So that would be my goal.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we have got past 8. We're now to city administrator reports. I'm sorry, a break? 2-minute break? 3 minutes, just turn over.
How are you? Yeah. More people than me lately. Yes, we do. We always have fun when she comes in. She is fun. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I know. Yep.
So I guess you're still on sabbatical,
Yes, sir. The next item on, in your packets, I think my microphone's going, is our agreement with McDermott Davis, our auditors. They supplied an agreement for the next fiscal year. These are the perks that work, not only coming in and auditing staff and pulling records or whatever, but also work with Zach. They did an audit last year, and I think they've done their audit for previous years. And actually, I would think they do probably a significant number of audits in Central Florida, because as I told you before, I dealt with them in the city of Mascot. Zach, I want to catch, if you can, with me, I think the dollar amount for next year's audit. The audit letter, it would not exceed $23,000 for the audit of the financial statements, and then an additional $4,000 if there's any audits of federal or state single audits, which usually require in reference to CDBG funds or other governmental funds. So our recommendation would be to go ahead and approve that audit for McDermott Davis, so that once this fiscal year closes, they can go ahead and get off and implement it onto our 23-24 audit. And I think the goal in here was to have it back to us by spring, February.
Thank you. Any discussion? You need a motion on this, or this is, of course, discussion?
We need a motion.
Motion?
Yeah, it's a contract, so we gotta.
Thank you.
Any comment?
Any comments from the audience? We're talking about a auditor that we're going to be, McDermott Davis. No comment from the audience? Commission? Motion?
Make a motion that we accept the engagement letter from McDermott Davis.
Second.
Motion moved in second, all in favor? Aye. So moved, no opposed? So moved. Second reading. We got the future land use amendment.
Mayor, what I'll do, consistent with past practice, I'm gonna read this ordinance, 2024-07, and I'll also read ordinance 2024-08, which is the rezoning for the same piece of property. So both ordinances will be read, we'll give one presentation, and then you should vote on them separately, starting with 2024-07, the land use ordinance, comp plan amendment, and then go into 2024-08 after that, okay? But I'll read them both, and you'll have one presentation as to both. Ordinance number 2024-07 by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the city of Lake Helen, Florida, amending the Lake Helen Comprehensive Plan, future land use map 2035, providing for a change of future land use designation of approximately 5.01 acres of land located on East Kicklighter Road, approximately 660 feet northwest of the intersection of East Kicklighter Road and South Pratt Avenue, from public lands and institutions, PL, to single-family residential, R1, providing for severability and conflicts, and providing for an effective date. And then, go to the next one. Ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance of the city of Lake Helen, Florida, rezoning approximately 5.01 acres of land located on East Kicklighter Avenue, approximately 660 feet northwest of the intersection of East Kicklighter Road and South Pratt Avenue, from public lands to institutions, PL, from public lands and institutions, PLI, to single-family residential, SFR1, providing for severability and conflicts, and providing for an effective date. And I think the effective date on the rezoning ordinance 2024-08 needs to read that it becomes effective when ordinance 2024-07 becomes effective. 07 become effective because our zoning did not become effective until our land use is effective. And I think our land use does not become effective. It has a longer effective date. You see that we have to submit it in 31 days after adoption. So our rezoning ordinance won't become effective until the land use ordinance becomes effective.
So we have to change that on the.
Well, we'll change it. Yeah.
All right,
three land use, comprehensive plan change. And then 08 is the rezoning. Comprehensive plan needs to be changed first, so that because we can only rezone consistent with our comprehensive plan. So we need to change our comprehensive plan to allow the rezoning.
And we did this separately.
You're gonna have one presentation, both titles have been read, but then you'll make motions on each one separate.
Motions on second.
And on 2408, Mayor, the planning and land development, the LDRC
Yes.
Commission recommended approval of ordinance 24-07 and 24-08. The ordinances were heard at the July 22nd, 2024 meeting, and after taking comment, the LDRC moved to recommend approval to said ordinances 2024-07 and 2024-08 to the City Commission. The background is the Central Fellowship Baptist Church is requesting an amendment to the future land use and zoning of the north 4.05 acres of church property located at 626 Kicklighter Road. The proposed future land use amendment would change the land use from PL to R1 and rezone the property from PL1 to SFR1. The change is necessary to permit the church to split the 5.01 acres from the church site to allow a future home site. The request is consistent with the existing and the future development pattern in this area. Issue, amend the future land use designation and rezone the 5.01 acres of real property on East Kicklighter Road, generally located 660 feet north of the intersection of East Kicklighter Road, south of Pratt Avenue, to allow the property to be split from the existing church site at 626 East Kicklighter Road and permit future home site. So the recommendation of the PLDRC, along with staff support through Heather, our planning director who supports the PLDRC recommendation, is approval of the first reading. Actually, this will be the second reading of ordinance 202407, amending the comprehensive plan designation of the 5.01 acres of real property from PL to R1. And then the second portion of that would be approval of the second reading of the ordinance 2024-01, rezoning 5.01 acres of real property from PL1 to SFR1.
I make a motion, we accept ordinance 2024-07.
Second.
Motion moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the audience, I'm sorry. Almost put that.
I guess I got to. I was just sitting there, I don't have to. I didn't hear it. Ron Perry, I attended that meeting, and their intentions are to split that again. They're not allowed to split it any further than 2 homes. So they're gonna be putting 2 homes. And I sat in other meetings with them, and they denied a person to split their property to put quarter-acre lots for homes. And that's in the one area that they're quarter-acre lot homes. So I'm just kind of, I don't like the idea of taking the PL and turning it, breaking it off, and changing that, and they're gonna come back to you and say, we want to divide that in 2 lots now. So, I think we gotta think about what our vision was when they made the plots or the land use, and now we're just changing it because somebody wants to change it, sell some property, or build some homes.
I think SF1 allows 2 houses per 5 acres, so it'd be 1 house per 2.5 acres.
Yeah, so they want to split it so they can put 2 houses, not just one.
Well, it already, the SF1 that we're going to allows 2 houses.
Right now, PL doesn't, that's the original land
And
use.
PL was for the church.
And that's the original land use for that property. The church bought that property, not to buy it and sell it for a profit or whatever.
public land,
Mhm.
non-taxable. So this is actually creating some taxable lots out of their property.
But I believe that it's still zoned for them being able to put two on there,
Yeah.
correct? So it's still going to be the
It's
same,
consistent.
just taxable.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, representing the board, the bill, you see this, plus that, and in fact, this, one reason why we discussed this and decided on it, the lot will be family. It will be his son that'll be there next door, so they'll have a future for the church and so forth like that. It's not like they're selling the property out. And he has another son that maybe he talks from to get on the other piece of property. But that's why we just decided to go with it. Plus that, it takes out, and actually gets some tax money out of it.
Thank you. So we're at motion and second and a vote. You had that?
Yeah, Roger made a motion, Heather seconded, for 2-4.
And we had comment?
No second, you got comment?
All in
Commissioner
favor?
Helen?
And the-
Aye.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Is that fine, Roger?
That was
Yeah.
You said no?
No, I said.
Oh, yeah, so unanimous.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 24-08 rezoning.
Second.
Motion moved, motion second. Comments? No comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Second reading of the, sleeping in public property. Ordinance 2024-09.
Ordinance number 2024-09, by title only, for second and final reading. An ordinance of the city of Lake Helen, Florida, amending section 30.12.00, camping and sleeping to comply Florida statute section 125.0231 to prohibit sleeping and camping on public property, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we accept ordinance 2024-09 as presented.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Comments from the commission? Previously, on the first voting of this, I voted no. And the reason for that is because of my feelings that we have almost 40,000 veterans that are homeless, and this would in some way affect them as well. I actually had a chance to bring that up when we were up in, down in Hollywood, at a symposium about this one very same thing. And the way that it was put before us, is that it was a ruling that it did not have, I won't even get into, I didn't write it down. It was a ruling that had been sent down from the governor, and it actually created more of a problem, that it was, not addressing the homelessness, but it was just making sure that it was criminalizing it if you were out sleeping. So that was just my vote to no. With that, now we vote, zone 1,
Yes.
zone 2,
Yes.
zone 3, zone 4,
Yes.
and I vote no. Ordinance 2410.
Ordinance 2024-10, by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the city of Lake Helen, Florida, amending section 9.09.17, alternative methods of collection to create F, to provide for the collection of assessments as a condition of issuance of a certificate of occupancy under certain terms and conditions, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
I make a motion, we accept ordinance 24-10.
Second,
Second.
comments from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. No opposed? So moved. Resident communications staffing system.
Yes, Mayor and Commission, since I've been here, the various members have talked to me about looking into options to where the city had an ability to communicate more directly with our citizens, since we don't have social media. And a couple of pages that we have in Lake Helen, the Chronicles and others, while at times may be beneficial, but at other times they are full of misinformation and unfactual information relating to the city. After researching several options, I came across this company called Citizen Savvy. It is an app-based application where our local citizens can download the app on their phone, and then they'll have a specific section strictly for Lake Helen. People can sign up via their cell phone, their landline, their text number, or their email. So it provides the city multiple options for resident engagement and community synergy. Unlike other programs we had in the past for Code Red, this is not geared at just emergency information. This is the kind of thing where in this particular program, let's say Rick's got a water break in a certain part of town, we can use Google to actually highlight the area that's affected, and then can have this program send messages just to the people in that area that you're on a bottle of oil, water, thing. Yeah, I feel like I've been boiled, but boiled water notice, and then we also can send out messages, you know, when that's lifted. We've got the ability to highlight city events, workshops, and meetings in some way to engage. I looked into a program that is with Granicus, which is part of our webpage, and it was almost like a $10,000 initial startup and then implementation of their program. Citizen Savvy comes down to a base rate of $1,639 a year. And they have two options that I would agree that we would take. It's called plugins and targeted notifications. That target is where we can highlight specific areas of town and just target a notification. And the company then integrates with our website. They participate with us in a marketing campaign to get out flyers, newspaper articles, through social media, through our own website, our utility bill, you know, that gets out information to the citizens, that tells them how to download the app, how to set up their account. The community does 2 cities in Florida now, and they do many others throughout. So when a Lake Helen resident is signing up, they specifically sign and click on the Lake Helen one. So therefore, they're not getting bombarded with any other cities or any other entities. Sign up is simple and easy, and they will assist with us in the marketing of that. And I provided the information in there, you know, about the company, what they do. Again, it can be used for emergency information, but it also can be used for a lot of those things that we do throughout the year to advertise our events, highlight things in the park, the Christmas events, the races, commission meetings, workshops, and those types of aspects. And so right now, we don't have social media. We rely on our webpage, and again, we have to rely on, at least here in Lake Helen, Facebook. And we all know, just because you see it posted doesn't mean it's true. And so at least it gives the city an opportunity to at least be able to get facts out on certain issues. And so commission is open. If they're not bought into this system, I can continue to look for, for others, but this seemed to be, in this day and age, where most people are operating by smartphones and whatever, seemed to be the direction to go, but also is still available for those of us or those who in town have landlines and don't have smartphones, and still prefer to receive that phone call or an email or something of that nature. And based on some of the other programs that are out there, it seems to be very, very cost effective. So if we went into this, we found out in a year it wasn't doing what we needed, it's a little investment, but it's a good opportunity to try a mechanism where we're almost doing a two-way communication with our residents.
How long will it take for them to ramp up to a point where we can have some dialogue or exchange?
Well, they usually tell me it takes a couple of months because part of it is education. They have an advertising budget that's allocated with this sign up. And so they will help us develop flyers that would be at City Hall. If we do a mailing on water bills, maybe not this next one if we're still using the postcards, the following bill, this could be an insert. We could do our own separate mailing. We could have it at these meetings here. We could even use the social media sites that residents are using now to highlight this, directing people to where that's at. So if it were to go forward, and I get with them, they would lay out the marketing plan, and I can bring you back a little more updates in terms of that. Volusia County has something similar, and some of the others are doing that. Some of them are storm related and what have you. So it seems to be a lot of organizations are going to the app-based just because of the fact that the smartphone seems to be the biggest way that we get connected. And a person can actually log them into the system, and then they can say how they want to be communicated to, by phone call, by email, by text. And then a resident, if they decide they don't want to get the messages, they can log back right in and have their account closed, from that aspect. So I've looked at several, going through a couple of others that I'm familiar with. But because of who we use for our webpage, we'd be limited to their site. And to be very honest, I didn't think the cost that was involved, that it offered any greater advantage. And this is the kind of thing that staff in office can either do it from desktop, or we could even do it from phones. And it also, they would integrate with the city calendar, so we can put in every single event, from Halloween to Christmas to Easter and July 4th, so that we're not using two calendars. Kind of their calendar would kind of tie into our webpage, and then we would keep that updated. So I know in talking with a lot of you, just 5 of you, in terms of that, where there was some discussion about finding ways of how we can better communicate with our employees, and sometimes just doing an ad in the newspaper or posting on our website doesn't necessarily reach the citizens. And this would allow us to do that, but it would also work with the citizens to opt into the system.
This is for information going from us to them.
Yes.
Does it allow for, like, if they're driving down the road and they hit a pothole, does it allow them to call back or notify us in reverse direction about the pothole?
Let me check that. I think it's one way right now. I mean, just in the sense of those going out, but let me check that, Roger.
Because I've heard of some that were two-way, but it'd be more on the price of what Granite says.
Yeah. There are those that people can be somewhere, can take a picture of the pothole and can send it in and what have you. But I think this particular one is one-way communication, so we don't get into debates in terms of that basis. But I'll get that clarified. But I think that's not in this particular program.
Should we broadcast in the time of, say, storm or emergency?
Yeah.
Can we just broadcast
Yeah.
a wide area, or is it just the people who are signed up?
Well, it would be the people who are signed up. So the real key of it in the first several months, and we've got a small population in kind of a little bit easier to communicate is, you know, whether you come to the police department, whether you come to City Hall, you get a permit, you pick up your utility bill, come into these meetings, we have flyers and stuff, so it'd be a constant, you know, aspect. I mean, we could get with the schools, you know, in terms of, you know, parents and whatever. So they gave me a variety of ways of how they reach out to the community in terms of that process. But it seemed to be one that, two cities in Yankee Town, and I think another one is using it. I've got them as a case study, you know, in the back in there.
New Freedom Girl.
Yeah, and it, small communities, but they're ones that I think the same thing, you know, they don't have a PIO, they don't have a communications office, and people are trying to find a way to better connect, and, you know, our people with gray hair, like you and me and Roger, and the mayor, and I'm not saying that, no, Charlie raised her hand, but Heather's from that generation that probably better identifies with the fact that this communication tool is probably more relevant to you than any other, right?
I mean, you said newspaper, I was thinking even still printed newspapers.
Yeah. But knowing that there are some that are out there might be an article or a flyer that might just go in letting them know, hey, Lake Helen's on this program, here's the information. I think we have a reporter in the room tonight, so that would be somebody like that. We at least be able to touch base with.
Thank you.
Now, would, because a lot of citizens that live in Casadega like to find out about our EMS, they would be able to sign up to it.
Yeah, they're not restricted to an area. In fact, when someone logged on here, they can see the other cities in the country they do. If they happen to be from somewhere, and they wanted to know what was going on somewhere at home, so you can log into there, but they would create.
I was also looking at it also because if there's a water line break in Casadega, since we maintain those water lines, if we can notify them.
Yes, sir, yeah, we can do that.
Is this app free to join for the user?
Yes, no cost whatsoever to the resident, no cost whatsoever.
Okay. Lots of clear, any motions?
I make a motion, we accept is it a contract?
Yeah. You approved staff to go forward with an engagement letter with.
I make a motion, we approve staff to go forward with the Savvy Citizen Communication application.
Yes, second.
Motion moved to second. Any discussion?
Thank you for this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are we going to talk about what Commissioner said about two-way communication? You're gonna check that out?
Yeah, I will look to see, because there are some other, and I've been in some conferences, where, again, the citizen sees something and they can send that back in, and then it's like it sets up to where it goes to public works, it goes to a certain area. I'll deviate just for a second, if you don't mind. I was at a conference and they highlighted this particular program that was being done, and they used Toronto as an example. And there was I think it was a beaver, that had been killed, and it was on a main street. And so they had that program. So all day long, people were taking pictures of it, and eventually a memorial wall was being developed around the beaver. So what they highlighted was, if you're going to activate one of these programs, respond to what the citizens are saying. Because it became a kind of a little bit of a joke that this was going all day long. Instead of going down and picking up the animals, it became a memorial of a shrine. So I remember that one differently. So I will look into that and I'll bring that back for you.
So we vote in motion? Second?
Yeah.
Good enough. It's getting late. Public Works Director, report. Thank you for hanging in there, Rick.
Oh, no problem. I actually just have 3 things. I was sitting here thinking I had more. First of all, everybody cool tonight?
Yes.
All our rain air conditioners
Good.
we installed last week, and it's probably working good.
Everything's come to my house, my air conditioning went out.
They did an excellent job, so Jacobs did a really good job putting them in. Second of all, we are on the very cusp of doing the water meters. We're actually gonna start them after we do this meter reading. Work it out, and Vepo will be the company installing them. I'm working with Core and Maine, we're gonna send out a flyer, they have a template, to let everybody know they'll be coming in the area, and also notify the residents there, on that. So that'll be happening, and the next thing is the cemetery. Roxanne and I are becoming very good with the cemetery. I am gonna build a book between them and Blackwell Survey Companies. You'll have a book that when you go through, you'll have the section 8, block M, it'll be one page. It'll be laid out, and when we get it done, we should have a really good map and a book on the cemetery. And I found a way to mark them, a little unconventional, but it works great. You'll see them out there. I did some today. They're actually water line markers. They're 7-inch ones. I marked the corners with them, and then 4-inch ones in the centers and everything. And they go over them. They're great. They look good, so I've ordered more. And we're gonna do the whole place like that. We'll go walk out there and we'll know where somebody goes the proper burial. So we're moving right along with it, and it should be a really, really good thing. I wanted to update you on that. Another question. Are we going to move forward with basketball courts? Because I'm still getting prices, but I didn't know if do we still want to continue moving forward?
We're waiting for a bid report.
I mean, I didn't know with all the budgeting and all that, and want to save some money for the city hall. I'll get them as we go, but I just need to know if you did want to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to know. I'll continue doing that. Okay, I've got many coming in, hopefully next couple of weeks I'll have 3 prices. And then I'll send out an email from Jim or whatever, all the pricing, so you can see it, okay?
And will, maybe it would be helpful to see if the price would change between having one or two.
Yeah, I've already been working on that, 1 or 2, and we come in right around, so far, around 75,000 per court, which was right within what I thought they would be. Because we're gonna have volunteers remove all the courts for free, the old courts. That's our biggest expense. It's like 15,000 per court removal. That's gonna be taken out.
So it's gonna be 75,000 per
Each,
court?
yep.
Okay.
That's about what we targeted them to begin with anyway. Okay? I just wanna make sure.
Is it because there's grading that's gonna be involved, or lighting, or?
No, none of that. I just went bare bones to courts. That's all we want to get for now. We can do all the lighting and all that as we go. But it gets the courts in like we wanted to do.
Is it gonna be concrete?
They will be asphalt.
Um,
I got concrete prices, and I'm still working on it, but a lot of them are going asphalt.
yeah, but they're more dangerous.
I'll get all the information on them, but I did do them both, either asphalt or concrete. But that's where we're landing, somewhere around there, so. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any questions?
Anybody, lighting over the shuffleboard court? We got the power to the wall.
I haven't done anything with that yet.
Lights, yeah.
They did hook up a wire to the lights.
No, that won't be, that's all internal, that doesn't belong to you. That was all they covered.
Right, that's it.
Yeah, most of them are scrapped. I would say if you're gonna put lighting back up, we have to put in new poles, modernize the LED and all that, do it right there underground.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, did I see him?
I do have something, one second.
Yes, sir. We have street question.
I'll make this quick, just a couple of minutes. Turkey shoot is scheduled for the 15th and 16th of November, and that's from 6 to 9. And the National Night Out is tentatively scheduled for October 18th. I have not set a confirmed date on that, but I should have something set by next week. And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
I'm sorry, Chief, what did you say the night out?
National Night Out,
What night?
Friday, October 18th,
Okay.
What are the dates on the turkey shoot?
15th, 16th
15th and 16th.
of November. And they're both, everything's 6 to 9. Sergeant says 6 to 9.
Who's cooking?
Oh, I don't know yet. That's why I don't have it. That's lights into it. But we'll have a flyer out hopefully by next week.
Someone mentioned to me, this is off topic of what you're talking about, I saw, those flashing lights saying how fast you're
Yes.
going.
Yes.
I thought that we had decided not to go with.
That's, okay, yeah, don't do that. Rumor, I don't want to take credit for that. That had nothing to do with us, county.
Oh, okay.
And pretty much, you'll see them in front of schools, like they've already come down on Kid Glider. They're not gonna be out forever, they're temporary.
Wow.
But in light of the tragedy last year, at the school of Fort Orange, you have the 2 schools on Main Street, that's why they're there. And then you have the, obviously at Lake, the private schools, but they went ahead and put these signs up, for people to slow down.
So it was a county.
It was county, and we didn't pay for that, but.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been coming up to me and say, hey, thanks for getting those signs up. I'm like, I can't, I'm not gonna say to take credit, I'm not gonna take credit for that.
Okay.
What was that?
Since those signs came up, I have a question. Someone that, when they're taking the kids to Surrey, when they get off the highway to make that left turn, the traffic is always coming. So there was a suggestion that, could we put up a 4-way stop sign at Summit to give them a break? My response to them is that that's a county road, although it's in our street. The last time I tried to get a blinking light up was at the firehouse, and they said that they did a traffic study, and because it didn't meet the number of cars they needed.
And I will say that's a major thoroughfare to put a 4-way up. You put a 4-way up there, you're probably going to get an accident. Yeah, you can start with the flashing strobes and all that, but you've got people with muscle memory that have been going through there for years, and
Well, the flashing strobes is actually the firehouse, but,
No, I'm talking about, if you made a 4-way stop, whenever you put up a new stop sign, you want to have something flashing, at least for a while, to let people know this is a new stop sign. But with that intersection, yeah, I would be leery about that. But that would be my,
For the lights at the fire station, the fire department can install to have vehicles stop while they're coming out for an emergency. They're $120,000 to install them. The fire department will not put it in their budget for Lake Helen because it's too small of a town.
well, when I made the,
they wouldn't be able to do it just for traffic control.
When I made the request,
The fire vehicles coming.
when I made the request a while ago, what came up was that they did a traffic study, and they said that we didn't have enough traffic at that time. But this was before Ivy Pond, and this is before, Lake Memorial. So I was just answering the person that asked me about the 4-way, and I explained that to them. I said, maybe it might be something that we might want to be looking at again, because the traffic volume has gotten a heck of a lot more since then. And they were able to shut it down because, oh, you ain't got the traffic coming through here. So it might be something to consider.
There's a county road that needs to be a roundabout.
Don't go there. Don't go there. I don't have a seat because
I like that personally.
I'm sorry.
I'm worried about this 144, so that's how I come into work, and I don't know how am I going to get to work. We'll see how that works.
Please, Lord. We done? No, we got.
Unless you have anything else.
No, that's it. Thank you. We're about ready to move to the quasi-judicial. Does anyone here have any, ex parte communications with any one of these 3? No? Okay. Gentlemen, we're ready for the quasi. Say what you say. Okay, good question. We can do them all at one time. Is there anything separately? Ex parte. Ex parte? That was the question I asked. We already did. We already did. Well, you got we were talking over here.
Oh, they got a sidebar, okay.
Sidebar.
I'm glad to see you're on that.
So, can we do them all at once? Yes.
I make a motion, we approve the certificate of appropriateness for item
there's, I know we voted, I just need more clarification on what we voted, right? When we voted for this, and they have no's, that means those were turned down, and it stays like they can't come back with that, correct?
You're voting on the recommendation that comes forward.
Yes.
Which is the no's that are on there. Okay, that's what I thought, I just wanted to double check. that.
Yes, what's coming
That's how I
before you is the
understood it.
recommendation.
Right, okay.
Can I speak on behalf of thousands? I'm representing, Dennis, for example, Ariel Faith, representing 274 West Washington, Lake Helen, Florida, representing, I believe you're talking in reference to the house on the street. There was a no on the, it was actually a condition on the no, if it was gable, then it was approved. They proposed a hip, and that was no. But if they brought back a gable, that was approved, based on the meeting. So I don't know if that's, and the paperwork that we submitted right afterward, I literally did both of those, that one and the one on the Senate. Everything we submitted was revised based on the historic board's recommendations, and that was not submitted to you. So that was a little disappointing, because to me it's confusing looking at the red lines from the draft, Bobby Morales, when some of those were just drafting issues. So for you guys, I see that as being confusing, what are all these red things for? I had submitted clean drawings with modifications requested, and it wasn't submitted to you guys, so just want you to know that, maybe staff can take, just check on that, why that's not getting to the commission.
Yeah, we'll talk to Bobby because these come directly to us from him.
You come after the historic review?
Yeah, Roxanne, is that the case?
What was that, sorry?
That Bobby Morales sends us a
Yes.
certificate?
After the historic board meetings?
Yes.
Oh, then that's a problem on his end, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. But anyways, thank you.
Hey, Mo, I said hi.
Okay, well.
You text me. Okay, next, public forum. There are 2 yellow cards. Nancy Weary.
Nancy Mary, 435 West Delaware. This year is the 7th Lake Helen Little City Big Sale Citywide Garden Sale. It is October 10th through 12th. And every year I come before the commission and ask them to waive the participants' $5 yard sale fee that the city typically charges. So,
Make a motion that we waive the fees as we've done historically.
I second.
Is there a way of identifying who's participating and who's not? So that when police officers or whoever goes around, they can, if somebody's not participating, they pay, you didn't pay for your permit.
we typically do have a few people who just set up. Some people even register, something will happen. And they might make it on the map if the map's already printed and they're not on. So we just kind of got to get started here, I think.
The permits will be issued during that period of time,
And they're waiving the fee, right?
They wait,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
typically they
It's
just,
just maybe somebody might participate without getting your certificate.
yeah, they typically have not registered with the city before. They just register with me, we put all the registrants on a map and circulate them out. So,
It's $5.
So technically, we're waiving the fees for that time period.
You're basically saying, if somebody gets a yard sale during that
Yeah.
period of time, you're waiving it presumptively,
but it's better for everybody to register because it definitely will drive the people to you if you're registered. So.
Thank you.
So we had a motion, second.
Yeah, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Ron Fair, 451 West Michigan. I know we went through the budget today, and I was out of town, but I listened to all your meetings. Was there a meeting that I missed that went over the funds coming I've never seen anything that shows the funds that are coming into the city, what we get from the state, what we get for franchise fees. You're shaking it, what was that?
Yeah, that was,
The last workshop we had was that.
Zach provided all the estimated revenues from the state and the various departments.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also, I'm very disappointed in the little pantry tonight, I just want to let you guys know that. None of us are missing a meal, but there are people in this town that are missing meals. And if we're gonna go by the legalities, and if we're gonna get sued, are we gonna keep our parks open? Are we gonna put in $150,000 worth of basketball courts and then tear them up because somebody might get hurt? You know, this, you gotta think about this. It's been going on for months. Rogers pretty much squashed it and it got brought back up. And it's and you said you didn't hear much about this, but that last meeting was appalling. City administrator, the mayor, Charlene, personally attacked a citizen. Personally. And then a race card was thrown up by the mayor, which there has never been a race card thrown by anybody in the audience, and it was brought up. And that's uncalled for. You would not be the mayor if we were a racist group. So I'm just saying, there's an apology should be made to Charlene, to Nancy, because you cut her off, and she could not come up here and defend herself to this commission after she was personally attacked. Is my 3 minutes up?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess it is. You're telling me it is.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
At this point, commission reports. Zone 1.
Okay, I have several things I wanted to bring up. Arbor Day planning is starting already. Thank you, Roxanne, for all the research you've already done. The Arbor Day is celebrated in Florida the third Friday of January because our planting season is different than other parts of the country. We have been doing it on that Saturday to go with local culture. So it would be Saturday, January 14th, if the commission still is fine with that. And would like to propose a mix of native fruit and native trees to be given away this year. Of course, again, at no cost to the citizens through taxpayer dollars, it would be all fundraising. And with a plan that whatever is left over be installed in our public areas and watered. We would need to have a watering plan. If there's if there's a consensus that that's all right, with everyone here, we'll move forward.
What was the name, Arbor Day?
Saturday, January 14th. And also wanted to bring up, we implemented Light Up Lake Helen night last December, and the goal was for the choo-choo crew to to have a night that was for Lake Helen and raise funds for holiday decorations. And there were funds received and then was matched by the city. I think we're around 6,000, 5,000, something around that mark. And in order to gain traction, and the goal is to, of course, get bigger and bigger things to decorate our public area, especially Lake Park, where we're known for, of course, the Butler Express. So the thought is to decorate, draw traffic through our restaurants and businesses, and of course, entertain area, common area for folks visiting us for the Butler Express. But the thought is to continue the tradition, and again, this year, if it's agreeable, and to look at a small decorations that can be installed this year using some of the funds, and then continue to stockpile, if you will, the money so that we can afford the bigger ones because they're quite expensive. I'm talking like $10,000, $12,000, $20,000 for some of the larger ornaments, the walk-through ones, or the large photo ops you can walk into, sit down. So if the commission likes that idea, I can bring some decorations before you, such as banners or lights, etc. And then we'll, again, find another day for the next commission meeting for us to approve for another light up Lake Helen night.
One little suggestion that we look into, when Deltona wanted to decorate their city hall, they went and they ordered spools of lights. And of course, the fire department, public works were both there to help them install the lights on the outlining the edges of the building and everything else. And I think the spools of light were like $1,000 or $2,000 per spool. I think there's like 500 feet or 1,000 feet of lights on each spool. They're not, they're those big spools, they're not the little tiny spools, they're big giant spools. So I
Thank
want to look into something like that, and that would be outline City Hall or even sidewalks and stuff like that.
Sounds great.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fred.
For those that are still here, if everybody remembers David Byers, he passed away and had his viewing and family visitation today at Langford, or just before this meeting at Langford. His funeral is tomorrow at Lake Memorial Baptist Church at 11 a.m. with interment at Lake Helen Cemetery following that service, and a, I keep forgetting what it's called, celebration of life following that at the, what used to be the gym station, I don't know what we call it now, Great Art Center. Anyway, if anybody's available during those times and want to come out and pay their respects to the family and everything else, you're welcome to come out to it. The other one is the Massey James Youth Center is doing their annual coat drive to supply winter clothing for those needy families and stuff. It's going at the actual date and time of it is going to be October 14th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, when everything can be brought by the Massey James Center. The American Legion is helping them in this, and if you don't want to wait that long, you can drop it by the American Legion. We're open Thursday afternoons and Saturday afternoons, so that gives you time you drop it off, and then on the 14th, we'll take it down there to them on the citizens' behalf of Lake Helen.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the final.
I got things tucked away here. I gotta go.
Roger, we're over 3 minutes.
I thought we had 5,000 minutes. This has to do with last month's meeting. As your representatives, most commissioners try to bring unity to the Lake Helen community. As a united community, we can accomplish anything. Our problem is that the vocal minority continues to promote division for personal vendettas. At our commission meeting on August 8th, our mayor presented a statement that, in my opinion, created an air of division. He promoted accusations against a couple of citizens and enters a racist tone about a situation that had nothing to do with racism. Most of the time, the problem has nothing to do with ethnicity as much as it has to do with attitudes or processes. Then he adjourned the meeting without allowing rebuttal from those he attacked. I guess he believes his position position enables him to shut people down so he doesn't receive criticism. This promotes a continual division in our community. So I ask each of us to review what will be presented to see if its content divides or unites. As an example, this statement was rewritten 3 times to remove content that may have created divisions. We will not be able to please everyone because of those Facebook trolls and diehard residents that are stuck in their own worlds and will never look at all sides of issues. We need to start pulling together instead of continually fighting.
Sound good?
I'm done.
I'm taking a little bit of a different view on what happened at last month's meeting. Did it get out of hand? Absolutely. Were there lies told? Yes. There were fake stories out there in the beacon. People were reading from websites, things that they were getting names that nothing happened. It was just an out of control, heated meeting. What the mayor said, I'm going to kind of stand by him a little bit here because I don't think what he did in making remarks about historically what has happened to the Black community or names that have been called. As a woman, as a female, as a director in large corporations, I've been called a lot of names. So, my take is I don't care whether you're a woman or a man or what, you stand up, you throw your shoulders back, and you just keep going forward to make the path right for everyone. We're gonna have to keep it narrow, and we're gonna have to keep it straight. The one concern that I got out of the meeting was when our CA actually made a comment that he was being discriminated against based on his religion or the lack thereof, and that the deputy clerk was being discriminated against based on race. I've never seen any of that happen in any meeting or in any conversation. I took away from that that was really kind of setting us up for possible lawsuits. It's not winnable. Nobody would have wanted it. It was just remarks that were made. And I guess they were just heated remarks. So therefore, I guess the takeaway is basically I'm agreeing with Rogers that we really need to put a cap on our words, and we need to put a cap on this city. My concerns right now are more about the budget. I have been driving myself crazy with the budget. Therefore, I haven't been involved in too many city activities. I apologize, I missed the 9/11 event. I had planned to go, but I didn't have a nurse show up with my husband. And I really would have loved to have attended. But other than that, I'm gonna end my part of it and say, no more comments.
I got nothing.
Chastity?
Hey,
That's your name, right?
that's my name.
I read the article that was put in the Beacon, and actually, while I was in Hollywood, one of the mayors told me about the article, and I hadn't seen it, hadn't read it. When I did read it, there were a lot of inaccuracies, and to her credit, I went to the Beacon. We sat down and we went step by step through what was said. She was open, and I didn't know that Eli is now the editor of the Beacon, and you're kind of because Eli has been around so long, it's almost like a casual conversation to talk to her about things that come up. In the 12 years that I've been sitting on this commission, I realized that I've been to over 250 meetings. I probably have about a 95% attendance record, so I don't miss much. And in those 295 meetings, last month's meeting was the worst I've ever seen. Now I'm speaking. In the end of the meeting, after everybody gets a chance to speak, each one of the zones, what we used to call zone, you can speak about something happening in the zone. After each person is speaking, when the mayor gets finished, that's the end of the meeting. If the camera is there to quell the meeting or whatever, that's the last thing to be said. We're not, and you're not trying to get a back and forth, because the back and forth just gets getting heated and heated and heated. Now, my comment that was made, I guess when Roger said that we have thin skin, and so they had to get from Roger to Sister Donata, who actually said that everything that Roger said, it was almost like they were communicating. So my response was, and I'll be 76 on next Sunday. On 76 years old, I've heard a lot of things. I've been in the midst of, not just on racial issues, but about being in law enforcement and being called everything else you can name, whatever you want to call a cop that ain't his name. So thin skin I don't have, Roger. And I didn't necessarily think that you were directing it toward me, but my comment was to say that I'm not the person that would have been so upset and been so hurt that somebody said, and I've never said anybody in this city has ever said that to me. So let's make that clear. This was not me saying that either Nancy or Kelly or anybody else would have said that. I haven't had that to happen. And the reason that I also said when I was sworn in, one of the things that Martin Luther King said, he wanted us to be able to get to a place that we would be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. I'm not sitting here because I'm a black mayor. I'm sitting here because of the content of my character that has been maintained and established over the last 15 years. I'm not somebody that's dropped out of the pot. I've been here. I've been doing the work. And one of the things that I mentioned about our city commission, whether we realize it or not, this is not a competition. We are a team. What we do here represents the city. What any one of us says can cost the city money. We're having budget hearings now. Everybody wants to be so tight about how we spend our money. Last year's commission cost us the $156,000 that we have to pay back to the Creative Arts Cafe because we were non-compliant. It cost us $156,000. Last year's commission terminated the contract of our city administrator, and the city administrator search cost us probably another $85,000. Last year's commission created a hostile work environment for the city clerk, and she quit. How do I know? Because she told me. And I recommended to her, as a former city commissioner, former vice mayor, that anything that would create a hostile work environment, you should not tolerate it. So, having said that, again, I've seen where a slight statement has cost the city $55,000 because someone commissioner said, oh, I'm glad we hired this person because she's young and she can grow with the city. So words have consequences. Whether you're saying that somebody did something in their, I said, law enforcement, you don't just get to say, well, a bunch of people said something about me and they were trying to intimidate me and they're threatening me. You have to have at least proof. You have to have something that shows that what you're saying has some basis in fact, because that's all we're dealing with. So, again, I apologize for anything that occurred on that night in that meeting that was either interpreted or whether or not I was actually pissed off. But if you notice, I'm the only one that's made that apology. At the end of the meeting is over, whatever happened, and there was a lot of inaccuracies in here. Roxanne did not get hired illegally. The last commission, under the last city administrator, hired her because the last deputy clerk quit in the middle of her employment, and the city administrator had to hire somebody to take her place. And he went into the charter and he hired her on 90-day temporary. But the next commission meeting, Rick Basso, because of things that were said, very inartful, I do say so, Roger, if I may, to say that, what I'm saying is that in speaking about hiring Roxanne, you said, I didn't see anything in her resume that an 11th grader couldn't do. And she,
Fourth grade.
Fourth
My
grade.
grandson.
Okay, but the point of the matter is, this woman here is studying for a doctoral degree, and she's probably been the biggest asset to my being elected mayor and coming into the mayor as being an August primary winner and knowing that I'm going to be the mayor in November. So when they hired Roxanne for the 90 days, and then Rick Basso made it a motion because he made a comment that if you have a problem with her being a temporary, how about we make a motion, I make a motion that we make her permanent with a $70,000 salary.
That was not,
Please let me finish.
that was no,
I didn't
because
interrupt
you are spreading wrong information. It was not because the way she was, it was because Rick Basso was,
raising your voice.
because I've got to stop you
You
from
don't have
talking
to
so
stop
I
me.
get my point across.
Never mind.
Rick Basso did not hire her for those reasons. He hired her
Thank you,
because
everybody, for coming.
of the previous administration's wrongdoing and violation of the charter. That's the reason why he hired her.
Thank you very much for that piece of information. You could have used it as well.
Thank you, respect, Mayor. Good man. Quit lying.
Right, good night.
I know. That's why I hate the lies and misinformation that's happening.
Roxanne, what do we have to pack up? What do we have to pack up?
Just gotta be careful.